All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is our Worldwide Stereo Hi-Fi Happy Hour. If you caught our show yesterday, we were talking with Techniques and everything about the SL1200 and the new one that they've re-released. They had and let me borrow one here, which was fantastic. So I got to experience that for myself here in my setup. I did have to ship it back yesterday. It was very sad to say goodbye to that. That was a great turntable. I was happy to play around with it. So thank you again to Techniques for having us demo that, and also for Bill for being on. It was a great show. Tonight, our Hi-Fi Happy Hour, we're going to bring in some of our Worldwide Stereo family and extended family, I shall say. Somebody who used to work for us and a very dear friend of ours. So this is going to be an interactive night here. We're going to talk a lot about vinyl and records and maybe some tips for your turntable, and just have fun with talking about records. So I'm going to bring my friends in here. And give me 1 second. Here we go. And there they are. Welcome, everybody. How you doing?
Hey, Adam.
Hello. Welcome from afar, Ken, there, all the way out, on the other side of the USA, pretty much. So thank you for taking the time and joining us here tonight. And
my pleasure.
Thank you. And I love the red shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Looks very nice.
Custom made. There's only one.
Only one. Well,
there are three, but I own them all.
You own them all. So tonight being our Hi-Fi Happy Hour, we are going to, again, talk about everything vinyl and records. And I got some great friends with me. I got Brian, I got Noah, and I got Ken. So we'll kind of go around the horn and everybody introduce themselves. Brian, why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm the technical field supervisor for Worldwide Stereo. You probably caught me in past episodes and for the Wi-Fi Happy Hour on the more technical side, but this is the side that I really like, which is music. I
can tell. That's quite the collection you got going on back there. You were showing us some of our stuff before we went live, so I can't wait to share that with our friends here. You got the some interesting albums there, stuff I didn't even know about. So kudos to that collection. That looks awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Ken.
Hello.
So...
I'm Ken Zellen, and I work with Macintosh. I've been involved. I'm kind of new with Macintosh. I got involved with them in 1972. So for Macintosh, that's not that long. They've got someone who's been working there for 55 years. And I worked with Worldwide Stereo for about 2 years, lived in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And now I'm director of training for Macintosh, and I'm out in Seattle.
Rightfully so. You certainly taught all of us a lot, and I was at your McMaster's class a long time ago when I first started with Worldwide Stereo, and definitely learned a lot from you. This guy is a smart guy. Anybody wants to know anything about amplifiers, he's your guy, as well as us at Worldwide Stereo, because we were trained.
Of course.
So, there's that. But thank you for taking the time. I'm glad to have you on here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Last but not least, we have Noah down there, right down there. There he is.
Adam, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Noah. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Long day?
Worked for Worldwide Stereo for 19 years, currently working as a senior field technician. My friend Brian up top is my boss. My friend Ken next to me used to be my neighbor. And Adam is our host. So thanks for having me on again. Pleasure.
You're very, very welcome. And I got a gentleman saying hey to you. Apparently you're at his house today.
Hey, Chris, great to see you.
Hey.
We're over there. And then you set up the MT5, but one of your Mac turntables. That's a wonderful turntable to have there, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Chris. Appreciate it. Okay, well, you all know me. I'm Adam, Worldwide Stereo. I've been with them a while. I love vinyl, but I got to say, based on some of the conversation I've just had with Brian here, I think he kind of tops me as the vinyl guru here with the collection. My goodness.
I would say enthusiast, not as much guru.
Okay, all right, we can go with that there. So, because that's I mean, I don't have any. I can't even wait for you to talk about this. The obscure albums that you have, but that is also quite the mustache you got, the beard going on.
Yeah, my girlfriend had to cut my hair the other day.
Had to?
The times that we're in. Yeah, no, she said I had to have my hair cut, and she was the one that had to do it. And she said while she was doing it, she's like, "We're just gonna shave right here." So she gave me the Lemmy.
Yeah.
So I had to keep it for a week, and the week is almost over. So luckily, I got to do an internet broadcast at that time, so it can stay forever.
This will be ever on our Worldwide Stereo YouTube page. So you ever want to reference that, know how to do it again, you'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
So this being our Hi-Fi happy hour, I first want to say cheers to everybody. And I have a little, I want to thank Boardroom Spirits. They've been phenomenal. They're in Lansdale. This is a little bit of their bourbon here, and they're always on point these days. So thank you very much. Cheers, everybody. Let's have a good happy hour.
Cheers.
Wonderful. Thank you.
This is water, everyone. They probably figured out it's only 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock here.
No, I got the Nimble Giant right now.
I'm back there too.
Oh yeah, always good.
Nice.
Always good. So I want to start out with talking to everybody here about, vinyl, and then, with all the sources that we have available to us today, you have a lot of people that are vinyl enthusiasts like all of us here, and then there's also the digital content. So I wanted to start out, it's always a good conversation piece, to get their perspective on, one, what do they think about the different formats between vinyl and digital streaming content, but maybe also what really got you into vinyl. Like we'll start with Brian there. Brian, you have, again, quite the collection that I see right there. I'm sure you stream stuff too, but what is it, about vinyl that attracts you to it? And then, what do you think of it compared to, say, like a high-res streaming service like Qobuz or Tidal or something like that?
So one of the things with vinyl that I found through my, musical history, like I've listened to punk music since the mid 90s. And as much as vinyl has been a revival for every other music form, it's been a mainstay for subgenres. So when I was starting going to shows, bands would put out a 7-inch, what most people call a 45,
right?
And sell them for $3 or $4, and that's how the only way that you could get something. Now, a lot of my collection is full of what would be quote unquote rare records because they're only been printed maybe 300, 500 of them, and it really that's the only way you can hear them. So as much as digital is the domain for the majority of the day, there's a lot of stuff in this collection I can't listen to anywhere but right here or anyone else that has that record. So that's a big part of it for me.
Yeah. I never even think about it like that. Like there's some music that's the only place that you can actually hear it. So you say it's rare. Like what kind of bands do you have back there that's only available with? Like for instance,
they're mostly obscure bands, but it's mostly bands that have been around for the past 20 years or so, and they've only released a 1 or 2 things. This record right here, it's probably the most rare record that I have, and it's actually a test pressing of a one band's only release that they've ever put out, but they've probably released hundreds of thousands of copies of it. But that's probably 1 of 5 that exist.
Wow. 1 of 5?
Yeah, because when you make a test pressing for a record, mostly low budget labels will only make 5 to see how well it sounds.
That's pretty wild.
So yeah.
That's a special piece. Where did you come across that one?
The internet.
Why? But even I can't. It's like it seems like it's like a Delaware license plate or something where it's like the low numbers, like it'd be hard to come by. That's all.
The only way that you could get it was actually I bought it in the late 2000s. The record label itself was folding, and they were selling off their rarest collections.
Okay.
It was a record label called Lookout Records, and the history of it actually is Green Day put out their original records on that label, and Green Day pulled the rights to those original records from the label, and in turn, the label crumbled.
Oh.
So they sold off a whole bunch of rare records. There were one-off Green Day records. Like there was only one made of this color because it was the first one that was pressed because it was between pressings. So they were at that time just clearing out their old stock. So I picked up this record. It's Operation Ivy's Energy. Mm-hmm. And, I spent probably too much for me to say on recorded medium, but it was one that I had to own because it's an important record for the genre. Yeah. And it's just such an important band to me that given the option to get it, like I just had to.
That's awesome. I mean, clearly, like you said, enthusiast, I think would be the perfect word for you. That's crazy. Yeah. Your collection right there. So, hey, no, so we'll shift over to Noah now. I mean, talk about, again, records and what got you into listening to records, and do you still do streaming at home? Like, what's your take on that, going back and forth between the two different forms there?
I certainly do streaming at home. The majority of my streaming is in rooms that I don't have a dedicated system in.
Okay.
So I've got Sonos speakers, bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, basement. That's what I do my streaming with. As far as records, we've got one dedicated listing room in the front of the house. And that's where we sit down, Friday, the week's over, have a drink, put a record on. My musical taste very much parallels Brian. We've been doing the same things for 20 years now. And mine started in 1995. I picked up a mail order catalog and found Kiss, like Kiss, and the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, ska band.
Yeah.
Did a split 7-inch. It was bright green, and it was Detroit Rock City on both sides. I didn't have a record player at the time, but I was like, I got to have this. So I put the $5 in the mail, sent it out. 2 months later, this record shows up, and at that point, my parents got me an Iowa, all-in-one system.
Yeah.
CD player, record player.
Something 11. I used to work at a place that sold that thing. I can remember. It was large. It was
big, yeah. And that big record from the superior quality of that Iowa turntable, that record is destroyed. Won't be listening to it again.
I think I remember at the time. I think it sold for about $200 at the time or so. So, and it got you everything right there. But yeah, I mean. Yeah, I remember that piece. Wow, that's amazing.
You're 15, getting into music. It's got everything you need.
Absolutely.
And if you need that record, it's right behind you.
Right behind you.
Do you? So behind you, I think I see some Macintosh stuff. So is this you're in your listening room right now that you're talking about with the good system?
Yep. We made some really irresponsible financial decisions during our quarantine. Picked up an MA252, an MT5, and a pair of BMW 702s.
Nice.
As you should, because you earned it. You work your tail off, and we're happy to have you on our team. So thank you.
Hey, pleasure to be here for sure.
All right, Ken. So what do you think? You're between the vinyl and streaming, and what do you do at home?
Well, I mostly stream. So I've got a Sonos connected up on its digital output into my Macintosh amplifier.
Oh yeah.
And that sounds darn good. And you got to remember, I'm 62 and I've never had a golden ear. So if I'm losing 1 or 2% of the sound quality, that's okay with me. I like the convenience of streaming. Now, I will say, if friends come over, we're going to play vinyl. They think it's fun. I think it's fun. When I'm done creating training materials after 8 hours of work at home, though, I'll stream for myself.
Yeah.
I can tell you where it all started for me.
Please.
Right here.
Bing.
So I used to be a fidgety kid. And when my mother wanted me to go take a nap, and I wouldn't take a nap, this is when I was maybe 1.5 to 2.5 years old. We had a Magnavox console, and she had this recording of Bing Crosby drifting and dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And she would put it on, and I would fall asleep in front of the Magnavox console. It wasn't a stereo; it was a hi-fi,
console.
Hi-fi.
Yeah.
Back there, 1959.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started for me. And I always loved turntables. It's always been my thing. Even though I don't play a lot of records at home, I just love the mechanics of it and watching it. CD players and streamers are kind of boring. There isn't much to watch.
There's nothing personal about it.
Yeah, exactly. So they're two different things, and they both have a place in this world. It's funny how, records were the thing, and then if you were an audiophile, you had a reel-to-reel. And then when CD players first came out, every hardcore audiophile had it, and now they're all back to records.
Yeah.
Reminds me a little bit of cell phones and TVs. Everyone used to have a phone with a cord on it, and everyone had a TV antenna. Mm-hmm. And then in the 70s, we all decided it would be fun to have a little Sony TV that we could take outside. And now all our TVs are wired up and all our phones are cellular because we've decided, well, it's more important to carry the phone with us than the TV. So things kind of can completely reverse over the years, and I've seen it all.
Well, yeah, that, and now your phone is also can also be your TV if you really want it to be.
That's right.
So it's all coming full circle. And I still have an antenna though. I love my antenna. I get about 70 HD channels on this thing back here.
I heard you say that, and I have to talk to you a little bit more about that.
Will do. Call me anytime.
Okay, I make
fantastic. Yeah, it is neat the evolution of where we came from, and I mean, I grew up with my evenings were spent with my dad that I can remember after dinner just playing a record, and because he would put everything on the tape. You master it so you don't ruin the record. You don't want to ruin the record, so you got to make that perfect tape copy, and that's what he would play back all the time. And he would always make more than one copy. So and very diligent about writing everything down, all the information on the tape. It was wild. So I grew up with this kind of stuff at a young age. So vinyl to me was, just a way that you listen to music. So I'm anxious to see if a cassette makes a little bit of a comeback here with people playing vinyl and maybe recording it. We don't know. I don't know.
I'm not investing in any money in that.
You'd actually be surprised. There are people still releasing cassettes.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's what I mean. Like it's vinyl's back a little bit. So do we do that whole thing again? I don't know. We'll see.
Reel to reel is next.
Well, I did have one. Did you guys see that? I brought in one for we had that.
Yeah, I remember the reel to reel.
Oh my god, I
hooked up a reel to reel at an installation once, and I was just like, all right, I connected it, but you're gonna have to play it because I have no idea how to make this work.
It is. I had to have my dad show me how to put that thing through and up to the other one to not mess with it and get the tension right and all that kind of stuff. So it's work, but it did sound. It was cool. He had some stuff in there. It did sound pretty good, I thought. But as far as for me, records are concerned, it's something I like to take out. I always call it like my classic muscle car that I keep it in the garage. It's that thing that, man, when you take a ride on it, it's great. But I certainly do a whole lot of streaming, throughout the rest of the week. My Sunday drive is going out and listening to my turntable right here, which
absolutely,
which I love. But it is work. And when you dedicate time, this is something that you dedicate time to listen to. You grab the record and you put it on, you're sitting down and listening. It's not, you can't fly and skip tracks and go to this artist and that. And there's always fun in that. And that's one of the things that I like about like Qobuz and using Rune and all that in my house is that it does lead you down that wormhole. You'll start on a band like Green Day and end up with Frank Sinatra and you have no idea how you got there, So that's kind of sometimes the fun of the streaming stuff. Oh my God, Mario! Look what Mario said. He's saying you can still get a Pioneer reel-to-reel for $2,500 out of New York. And Carlos, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Bringing back the 8-track.
My grandma loved 8 tracks.
Did she?
Oh yeah, when she used to live down the shore, and whenever my parents would drop us off, like she would throw in Sammy Davis Jr. was her big one. So you go to the grandma's house and Sammy Davis Jr. would be blasting on the 8-track, and it was the late 80s, and she was still just killing it with that thing. Yep.
What killed the 8-track? You couldn't rewind it.
Well, that's why you just listen to the same thing over and over again.
Over and over again.
Look at Scott Jordan mixtapes rule. That's a lost art. It really is. I mean, we God.
Not if you have that Iowa that Noah has.
Well, there's that. Here's a follow-up question. We got Cruisin' RSX. Yesterday, I asked about the truth to the Technics Q lever. Any problems? Any truth to those rumors? So yes, I did speak with Bill a little bit after that because I saw we got that question multiple times yesterday about the 1500 turntable, and there is truth to it in the sense that it's sometimes it's not completely accurate when that queuing lever comes up. Now there is an adjustment in there to make it right, but because sometimes with the records and where that lead out edge is, sometimes it's a photo cell. I think he was talking about in there, some type of fiber optic light that reads where the tone arm is, and then it starts to pick it up. So sometimes it can pick up early, sometimes it picks up late, but you really have to fine tune the adjustment to get it just right, and then it's not a problem. But you can also defeat it too. That's one thing he said as well, is that you can defeat that and turn it back just into a manual turntable, so that cueing at the end of the record to pick it up doesn't work at all. So they're aware of it, but it was the best way to put the technology into it without altering the sound quality, because they did it in such a way that it doesn't mess with the original motor that's in there. So it's its own entity in there. And because of that, that's why sometimes it can be a little off, or, cue too early or cue too late, or sometimes not at all. But there is an adjustment to fine tune that, which it sounds like you need to do to make it work, better, or just defeat it. So I hope that helps.
No, I know Noah loves the sound of the runoff groove, so I don't think he wants to get one of those.
Yeah, we had a little educational moment at our house where, we don't leave the needle on the runoff grooves for much longer than what appears to be about 5 or 10 minutes.
I've heard about this, so it's been a topic.
Adam, I'm going to tell you, it is legitimately the best sounding part of the record.
Hey, Bob, he said, don't laugh. I still have a mini disc system. You know what? You have a friend in Dave Saylor with Worldwide Stereo. He absolutely loved the mini disc. What?
That's my CD player.
That's your portable CD player, yeah. You know what? The mini disc was a cool format. You could really do a lot with it. It was really cool, and you never, you couldn't really damage anything. Like, you could never scratch it like you scratch a CD. So it was a really cool technology. And like I said, you want to talk mini disc, Bob, email Dave Saylor, and he will talk with you forever about it, because he loved the mini disc system. He always talks about it. He had the car stereo with the mini disc attachment in there. So
was that digital, small, and recordable?
Yes. Yeah. Look, I mean, it was like a little floppy drive almost thing that it looked like, really. It was cool.
When I had my store, I decided that there was no future in that and I wouldn't carry it. So instead I carried DCC, the digital cassette, which was even less successful. I took the worst of the two bad paths.
So, Ken, I'm going to give you there's a direct question here.
Okay.
It says, what pairs well with an MC302 in terms of speakers?
Well, the 302, that's easy and hard to answer.
Sure.
So 300 watts a channel. It can't clip. It peaks at about 450 a channel, and it doesn't care what the impedance of the speaker is. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a universal amplifier. You can use it with any speaker you want. A huge number of Mac dealers carry Bowers & Wilkins speakers, and it sounds excellent on those. I was just at a store where they had it hooked up to a pair of Focals, and that sounded great. Mm-hmm. And let's see, I think that was in Michigan. And then if you really like to turn the volume up to about 99 when no one's home, then the big, gigantic clip speakers are a good choice too. So I would say, without getting myself in trouble by recommending one brand of speaker and having everyone call Macintosh and say, how come he said that? I think any of those would be a good choice.
Don't you think the Macintosh speakers would be good with it, though?
Oh, the Mac speakers would be good, but I'm trying to give a little bit more universal.
If I'm thinking about the 302, those old iOS speakers I had that connected to the computer.
Oh, yeah. Sound good. I think they would sound good for about a half a second.
Yeah. Right. When I used to work at Worldwide, I sold a lot of Macintosh speakers, the XR100s, because when no one's home, I like to turn the volume way up. And I attracted customers with a similar way of thinking. So you use Macintosh speakers are the perfect speaker for people who want to bring back the 70s with accuracy of sound. They will play louder than HELL. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the word. So
you double hockey sticks?
Yeah. Apologize about that if anybody heard that. My dog and my cat are both sleeping on the same couch over there, and the cat kind of moved and scared the dog, and the dog. And so there was a little bit of a commotion behind the camera there. So everybody heard that. I apologize.
Fighting like cats and dogs, if you will.
If you were raining, fighting, yeah, absolutely. One of the two. It was raining earlier today.
Wait, cats and dogs living together?
Mass hysteria. So
hopefully I answered that question well enough.
You did, Ken. You absolutely did. And it's there's taste obviously in speakers. Yep. When you pick it out and what each speaker sounds like and characteristics and things like that. So I'd say when you're looking at an amplifier as powerful as an MC302, certainly you want to watch your speaker's power handling capabilities. So that's one thing you want to be sure of.
Yep.
But yeah, pick the brand that you like, and make sure you explain to somebody like myself or whoever you're dealing with what kind of music you like. And if you do like to turn it up to 11, make sure you tell them that.
Yes. Yep. I was in Framingham, Massachusetts at a store, Natural Sound. And I used to work about 5 miles from that store. And I was there visiting a few years ago. And Dr. Schwartz came in, who I had sold the system to in 1978. And he had a Mac amp with 200 a channel and power guard and output autoformers. He's gone through 7 pairs of speakers in that time, and he's still got that damn amplifier. Because once you've got a whole lot of power and it can't clip and no distortion, you can do anything you want in speakers. So that's kind of a good feeling. It's kind of like owning an oil company. You can buy any car and not have to worry about the gas mileage.
That's true.
So Noah, you're in good shape.
I'm in good shape.
Look at some of the stuff out here. Look at like Mark. You say he has a mini disc Walkman. Wow. And then Carlos here. Look, he's got a cassette recorder and a '65 Chrysler, and it got stolen. Oh no! Must have been a while ago. And oh my God, let's see. Do you remember this one? A Tascam, a 24B Tascam.
No.
An Integra 909 cassette deck, also like new.
Wow.
Somebody's got these great pieces of equipment out there. That's awesome. So when we deal with, let's say, turntables, and are there any, I want to talk about maybe some setup, like tips and tricks and maybe things like that. Like setting up a turntable, I showed yesterday. If you didn't see it, check out the YouTube video. I gave a very basic overview of just how to balance the tone arm and get the tracking force right and get the anti-skating right. So those are some of the basic fundamentals. And when you're setting up a turntable that you need to consider and things you need to do. But there's a little bit more, I think. And one, I think, is vibration control. So real quickly, let's see, is this still this thing on? Yes, it is. So I have here ready to show you guys, like I did yesterday. This is my turntable that I have in my setup here. It's a JVC. And one of the things that I really believe in is vibration control. So underneath, I've had these for a while, so pardon, they're a little dirty, but they've got some miles on them. If you look down here, see what I've done here? Okay, these are made by Audio Quest. Do you have those too, the Q feet?
Yep.
Excellent. There you go. So these are the Audio Quest Q feet, and you have them too. My goodness.
And that was not planned.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud. But yeah, that's one thing that I do to my turntable to isolate it from the cabinet here that it's sitting on.
Can I talk for just a moment about why you want to do that?
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
So there's two, when we say isolation from vibration, I first want to clarify, we're not talking about walking across the floor and the turntable skips because you have a loose floorboard. If you have that problem, you want to attach the turntable to the wall. So the problem, if you don't have good isolation, is that sound comes out of the speaker, travels across your floorboards with a little bit of vibration and through the air and hits the turntable. The turntable starts vibrating minutely. The platter vibrates, the needle vibrates, picks up the vibration. It goes through the amp, out the speaker again, goes back to the turntable, and you get this in the background, these low frequencies chasing each other. And that breaks the circuit. It actually is a time delay device. So it's kind of like one of those pillows or mattresses. What do they call it?
Memory foam?
Memory foam. Thank you.
There you go.
So with memory foam, you push it in and it takes a second to come back out. What we're trying to do is break the cycle of vibrations. And what those feet do is when vibration goes in the bottom, even if it comes out the top, it's delayed in time and it doesn't reinforce itself.
Yeah.
So one way to tell if that's going to help is, and you have to be careful doing this, sometimes you can just pick up a turntable while it's playing. And if you pick it up and say, wow, that sounds better, the bass is so much cleaner, you know isolation feet would help.
There you go. Good point, Ken. Thank you for that explanation.
Afraid to pick up a turntable while it was playing.
Well, your turntable, because it flops around all over the place.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be afraid if I was using your records, Brian.
No, not at all.
Yeah, we'll try it on that. Now, the other thing that I do to handle that, I'm going to take my record off here so I can show you. Be careful here, if you see. And I mean, I just had this laying around here, this nice cork mat, that I have on.
Nice.
I picked it up somewhere cheap,
It looks like that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
But yeah, I like to have a cork mat on mine too for the exact same reason, just another added layer of isolation, which really helps out.
And you remember we had a guy who brought in the turntable. I think it was a Thorns, and we put it on the test bench.
Oh,
and this thing wouldn't track anything. The whole tone arm went into massive vibration on my test records.
Yep.
I couldn't get it to perform. And I finally just said, I threw up my hands and I said, I just don't know what's causing this. And my hand touched the record mat and it was hard as a rock. And I said, I wonder if a cork mat would help. We put it on and the problem was cured.
Cured. I remember that. That was amazing. So yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes you just think of these little things like the Q feet and vibration control or a cork mat and what they can really do to the performance. Because I like to make an analogy that the stylus is really like a microphone.
Yep.
And it can pick up almost anything, and it doesn't know the difference between the music on the record or what's happening in the room, or like Ken said, vibrations in the floor and transferring, or the sound coming back out and coming in. It has no idea, so it just plays whatever it wants. So when you isolate it, that's what can improve things. So what were you holding up there, Brian?
My project.
Your clamp or your weight.
What
does that do?
Oh, it holds the record down really hard. It's really heavy.
That is.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, go for it.
You can answer technically. Some salesman convinced me to buy it, and the records sound better since it.
Yeah, it's a good thing to have. So the whole idea of the record mat is to damp out the vibrations, but almost every record isn't flat. It's dished slightly up. You might say, well, mine is dished slightly the other way. Well, but if you turn the record upside down, now it's dished up. And whichever way it's dished, if it's not in intimate contact with the record mat can't do its job. And that holds against the record mat.
Pushes it down. That's it.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. I used to have a heavy wood and metal dedicated turntable stand with pointed metal leg tips. I used quarters under the tips. How much does something like this help? Wow. So wait, heavy wood metal dedicated turntable stand with pointed metal leg tips, and the quarters were underneath there.
The quarters. Yeah. The original concept of the quarters was so you don't scratch the floor
with the metal spikes. Yeah.
Right. The spikes are what's doing it. The quarters. You could use Canadian quarters, U.S. quarters. It's just to prevent scratching.
I heard the Euros are the best.
Do the job.
Yeah, I hear the Euros sound the best.
Yeah.
Putting a quarter under the pointed tip should increase the resonance, right?
Well,
you want to get technical about it.
It's a little more.
Are there rubber quarters?
There's two ways of thinking about this. One is that the metal spike concentrates the energy on a very small spot and therefore isolates the stand from the floor. And the other thing I've heard is it digs into the floor to thoroughly couple the stand to the floor, which is, of course, the exact opposite. But everyone seems to agree it helps the sound. We may have to leave it at that because we may not figure it out today.
We may not.
We may not.
We'll start experimenting today, though.
Right.
So is there, so Noah, with you have an MT5 there now. Anything that you've done to that? Did you put the Q feed on yours?
I did. Yeah, they showed up. My friend Adam from Worldwide Stereo did some setup on that for me. The Q feed showed up. I think with the weight of I didn't realize the weight of the platter on this table.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if the Q feet were necessarily beneficial based on the weight of the platter. But they're there nonetheless. So I haven't really A/B'd anything.
Do you have a subwoofer?
Not at this time.
If you ever had a subwoofer, those feet would be really good.
Okay.
Because that's what's going to set up a lot of low frequency vibration in the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've invested for the future.
It's good to know.
Now
I've asked if we need a subwoofer. Do you need a subwoofer?
Sounds like yes.
Sounds like you do. I mean,
Ken said yeah.
Ken's.
Well, when I listen to a classical recording,
Yeah, here you
it
go.
isn't that often. But when I do, you always have this sound of like
You prefer
the
Dos
air
Equis,
conditioner in the background and all these sounds that weren't necessarily produced by the musicians that a subwoofer adds back. And when you add that back, it sounds more real. It's kind of like having a sneeze machine. It sounds more like you're at a live concert if there's sneezing in the background. So I'm not saying you have to have a sub for music, but adding back those ultra low frequencies creates a level of realism. And I like bass because the first speakers I ever heard that were good were gigantic Macintosh speakers, and each one had two 12-inch woofers. So depends on what you grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, I have a subwoofer in my system that's wired in when I listen to music as well. So I would always suggest having a subwoofer just even for stereo listening because it just adds that little bit of extra. And if you're really going for a reproduction of what live music feels like, when you're at a live show, like when that kick drum hits, man, it hits you in your entire body. Like you can feel it in your whole body. And that's just something a pair of speakers and an amplifier alone can't do. You just need that. You need that woofer to make it happen. So when you add a woofer and fold it in properly, it feels like live music. So it just adds to the whole experience of trying to just escape whatever is going on and be totally immersed in what you're listening to. So, yeah, I would agree, Noah. I think I'm going to spend a little bit more of your money there and you're going to end up with a woofer.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
You're welcome. I try. Oh, who's barking?
Someone's at the door, so my dog's going crazy. I'll be right back.
That's okay. That's fine. Everything. Here we go. From Bob Cole. Bob Cole, our owner. We love you, Bob. Everything we do is a quest to sound like live music. Period. End of story. That is absolutely right. I mean, well said. Thank you, Bob. Bob Cole, our owner. We love you. So I think, Brian, I've got to ask, you told us a couple stories about some of the neat pieces. Weird. Okay. You called it weird. I called it neat pieces that you have in your collection there. Can you please tell our audience about that? And everybody out there, if you tell us about some of your favorite records that you have too, that you like listening to. But wait do you hear this, guys. Check this out.
So this is a neat little record. It's actually a split 9-inch. It's not even 10. That has concentric record grooves for it. Yeah. So the really neat, interesting thing about this record is depending upon where you start it on the record, you're going to hear either the electric version or the acoustic version of the record, because the concentric grooves is if the needle hits this side, it's the electric. If the needle hits that side, it's the acoustic. So it's a it's a double-sided 2-song record, but there's actually 4 songs on it, and it is near impossible to pick the one that you want to listen to. So if you're trying to listen to the electric one, you're just like, okay, little micro changes is the only way that you can possibly even get to the other groove. But it's really interesting. It's
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So once you drop the needle on there and you're like, you're going to get one or the other. Did it ever switch like mid song? Could it ever switch?
Only if someone's bumping the record player, because if the needle skips, it'll jump the groove. The groove is super, super tiny.
Yeah.
So it's a real interesting one. So it's kind of a luck of the draw for which one you're going to hear.
Because I remember when we were talking, I did some research. Like, isn't a record groove is like half the thickness of a human hair, if I remember, just normally. So now you're telling me within that thickness, there's two grooves that it could possibly hit. So you drop it and it's gonna hit one or the other, because normally it's just like this, but you're saying now I have this, so I have two sides to it.
Yeah,
it's relatively thick too.
Yeah, it's not so much like this.
Okay.
It's more like this, just two grooves concentrically wound. Yeah. So one is wound where the other one isn't.
If you ever looked at a record, these are real tight comparatively to normal records. It's actually pretty thick too.
Yeah.
So it's a real special made by there's a record label / manufacturer called Pirate Press Records.
Okay.
They do a lot of interesting things with vinyl. They actually started doing flexi postcards now too. So you can get a record or a vinyl postcard that will play on a turntable.
You guys are too young. You don't remember Reader's Digest.
I do. Like the little flimsy thing that used to come with a square, and then
pull it out.
You would pull it out and get your favorite cut. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was one it was a recording of the Kennedy funeral. Okay. Well, not the most interesting thing.
Let's bring it up.
Well, this party just took a dive. No.
Yeah.
No, they were very. They were actually one of the companies that brought flexible vinyl back, because as much as the vinyl industry manufacturers kind of disappeared over the years, ones that did specialized pieces really disappeared.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you that you told me about that. That's the craziest thing I ever heard. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, if you want to. If you really want to go into a crazy record, there was one that Jack White put out a couple of years ago, and it had some tracks were concentric grooves. The lock groove had a thing that you had to move over and play another one. There was actually a hidden track underneath the label itself.
Seriously?
Yeah. He took look it up. It took every little trick that they can do with a record. He tried to throw into one release.
Wow.
Okay, but if it's under the label, like you have to rip the label off to get to it. Does the label then just like not go? Like that's it? Like you don't have a label on your record?
I didn't get it, but it's just what
you didn't get it. Mr. College tuition with records behind him didn't get it, but
yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, the first stereo records had two tone arms spaced about 2 inches apart that were locked together. And they were going to make the records with these grooves that were staggered. We actually had these records. The company,
wow. Okay.
The company that made it, of course, the problem was trying to keep the tone arm in alignment, because if the screw was off by 1/8 of a turn, then it was, one channel was one cycle ahead or behind the other one. And the first radio that was stereo was AM, had one channel, and FM had the other channel. That was an equally dumb idea.
Well, that makes sense. Anybody hear of this record? It says the James Gang, your album 1968 had a hidden track on the center where the singer said, "Turn me over." You could never hear it on an automatic turntable.
Yep.
Well, that's a good point. We haven't talked about that yet. Automatic versus manual. We covered that a little bit yesterday in talking with techniques and things like that. So what are your thoughts on automatic versus manual turntables?
Well, I'll go.
Go ahead.
What's that? Go ahead.
Go ahead,
There's
Ken.
nothing wrong with the turntable being automatic, except it would cost a fortune. So, like the Dual, Gerard, and Miracord, and a lot of companies used to make fairly expensive turntables that were automatic.
Yeah.
And we could take a great turntable today and make it automatic, and it wouldn't really interfere with the sound because you could have it all, the motor only turns on when it's moving back and the arm has to move back and forth, and photo optically could sense when to do it.
Yeah.
The problem is the thing would cost a fortune. And everyone would say, well, it cost a fortune. If you took off all the automatic stuff, could you make it sound better for the same price? Which of course would be yes. The problem is that today, most automatic turntables are horrible. There's my dog again.
You get a lot of visitors.
Yeah. Most automatic turntables today are horrible because they're cheap, horrible turntables, not because they're automatic.
Okay. Well, that's okay. I hear that. But let me show you something because this is just cool. So again, let me bring in my turntable. Add the stream. All right. So let me cue this over here. So this JVC that I have here, I don't want to go too crazy. Let me get a better angle. There we go. Is automatic. Okay. And I also have control of the tone arm. Like down here, I can have a arrow, and I can just move that wherever I want.
Does it stop at any point?
Well, yeah, I can just incrementally, just by one button press here, move it wherever I want.
The problem I always have with my automatic turntables is I actually have 5-inch records, and every time I would try to play one, it would go back to its original location.
That's when you need the automatic off bypass button.
Right.
They could build something like this JVC today, but it's not trendy. The more expensive the turntable, the less it's supposed to do. That's the whole point of being audiophile.
I also have a repeat button, though.
Oh.
So I could just keep playing the same side over and over and over and over and over again.
Now, some people would argue a record gets hot as it plays because the pounds per square inch, and it needs about an hour for the vinyl to re-harden, so that's a terrible thing to do. I think they're full of baloney.
I was going to say, and then there's some people that are just full of baloney.
Right. I think Thorin started that rumor because they only made manual turntables.
Now, Ken, have you ever seen the Macintosh automatic turntable?
No, to my knowledge, it doesn't exist, but you're going to tell me something.
An interesting little factoid with that. There's actually a movie starring Jeff Daniels that was filmed in Philadelphia. It's called The Answer Man. Worldwide Stereo lent a Macintosh turntable to them for filming the movie. And one of the opening sequences, Jeff Daniels hurts his back and is stuck on the ground, and the turntable plays a song. And then in movie magic, the Macintosh turntable ends and drops back to the beginning to play again. So
that's
a little interesting.
Amazing what you can do with Photoshop.
Right.
Yeah.
Movie magic.
History. Someone made a Macintosh turntable automatic for a movie.
So our buddy Matt Hecht is on. Thank you, Matt, for joining us tonight. Good to see you. Does it do auto reverse? No, I'm sorry. It's the one feature you had to call out. The one feature that it doesn't have. I mean,
Thorin's had that once. It was a turntable, the model 224. It would take the record at the end, flip it over, and play the other side.
Wow.
Well, speaking of that, I miss this. You remember the stacking 45s or stackable even 33s? that's kind of cool. I don't know. Again, these old features. You got to remember when, like, at one point, vinyl was the number one media. Like that's what you had. So, how do you entertain? How do you have people over? Right now we put on a Pandora station or a playlist or something like that when you have people over streaming, and it'll play throughout the house for hours on end. But before, you had to have all the physical media, so you would stack it up. And that's why when you look at some of the older albums that were multiple records, like you'd have 2 records, and record 1 was side 1 and 3, and record 2 was side 2 and 4. So that way when you stacked them, they would drop properly, and then you'd have to flip them over, so then they would drop properly again. I mean, these are just some of the things that that we had back in the day, because that's what it was. So just interesting stuff. This guy says, bring it back. Bring it back.
I'll take one. Sold.
Wait. Adam, speaking of back in the day.
Yeah.
There's a copy of the Beatles, Something New.
Wow. Okay.
And on the back, it is autographed by Pamela Fraser, who is my mother.
Okay.
So I've got her, what is this, an original, maybe 68 copy?
Wow.
And we're never going to listen to it because it's real beat up. But that's part of the record experience that I enjoy, is having that thing, knowing where you got it, not listening to it, but just having that thing you can hang on to.
Yeah.
And it's passed down from the years. So that your back in the day comment made me think about that. That's
cool. Yeah. No, I mean, it is nostalgic in that way. When you start playing a record, it can make you think of memories or times, just like music can think you of times and places that you've been. But certainly playing a record can also add to that, when you start thinking about things. And oops, where did it go? Oh, what do you got there?
So it's 1974, I think. And I tell my mother I'm going to the library, but I actually ride my bicycle down to Purdue Radio in West Caldwell, New Jersey. And that was the first really good stereo store I ever went to.
Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
No. Yeah, Tori wants to say hi. Sorry. No.
Hi.
Okay.
Come on over.
You want to go outside?
I need everything.
Okay. All right. We'll take care of it. Wow. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Ken.
So I go into Purdue Radio, and they've got a full stack of Macintosh. That was one of my first experiences with Mac, and they're playing this album, and this was a direct-to-disc album.
Wow.
So direct-to-disc, there was no tape of it made. They started the lathe cutter. They started playing. If they made a mistake, they stopped the lathe cutter, put on a new blank, and started again. And this was so superior sounding. It was unbelievable. And I remember that same day, I remember the name of a customer who was listening in the store at the same time. And you might say, why would I remember someone's name? Well, his name was Dave Casanova. Relatively unusual name. But this was the thing for a while, with direct to discs. And they were sold by hi-fi stores more than record stores. No tape deck.
Right. Bob wants us to remember that today is actually Paul McCartney's birthday.
Wow.
Now that you brought up the Beatles album. So
happy birthday.
Paul. Yeah. I also, it's like when you look at a collection like what Brian has back there, and I know Noah, your collection as well. There's all these different places that you can buy like records. Like, where do you guys like seek these things out? Like me, I'm not the collector like you guys are. I love this stuff, but if I want an album, I'm either going to go to my dad's shop and peruse his collection and pull something that I want to listen to, or buy something brand new online. But you guys seem like you go all over the place to get records. Noah, where do you have some favorite places you like to go, Noah, or experiences?
My favorite place is always to buy the piece of music from the band. Like if I can buy it at the show, that's the best place, because then I can attach that memory to buying that record, and that always lives with me forever. I mean, I can pretty much tell you where 90% of my record collection came from, whether it's mail order, whether it's from the band, whether it's a gift from a friend. As far as locally, and I'll call it locally, Double Decker Records up in Allentown is incredible. Mm-hmm. Blair and Siren Records up in Doylestown do a great job. Hideaway in Chestnut Hill, Main Street Music in Manayunk, Princeton Record Exchange, Creep Records down in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
There's tons of great places to buy records, and I really hope that once we get in a better place, that all of those places are still going to be brick and mortar stores.
Yeah.
But those are a few of the places I'd go to.
Any stories of maybe like sitting out, like camping out, or like waiting for an album to come out, something like that?
Brian and I kind of just talked about this the other day in jest. I'm done with record store day. There were so many times you'd show up at 9 o'clock in the morning to a place that opened 11, and you get there at 9, and there were 75 people in front of you. By the time you got in there, nothing you wanted was there anymore. You left. It's kind of ruined the record collecting for me a little bit.
Oh man.
No, I will say I have one of Noah's once in my collection, and it was a super hard record to get because the only way to get it was to be at a band's 10th anniversary show and be one of the first 100 people in line.
So you have to be at the show.
Yeah. In Chicago.
Okay. So in Chicago to go see a show and be one of the first 100 in line. So not too hard.
No. And luckily I took a friend with me, so I had two.
Had two.
Didn't go to Noah though.
We use the term friend pretty loosely.
I was about to say, yeah.
Apparently.
One of my favorite albums that I actually got, and Ken, you mentioned it before, just classical. It just fell into my lap. My mom showed up one day. She was cleaning out like her storage room or whatever, and she had, the box, and she gave it to me, and I'm sifting through these records, and now there's a John Wayne thing here and there, and I'm going through, and then all of a sudden I pull out this Vivaldi Four Seasons. Oh. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. And then I took the record out, and it's pristine. And I mean pristine. And I'm like, where did you get this? Like, how is this sitting in your, what? Like, so that's one of my favorite records that I got. And it was just, again, by chance, and I guess sometimes that happens, people pass things down. So that's an album to me that, like you were talking about, Noah, like it adds to like a timestamp to it. Like I know when I got it, how I got it, and it just makes it more special.
And I think Ken, from all his years at Macintosh, can attest to this. Having a personal memory attached to the piece of music that you own makes it sound 15% better.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Judd says he likes his Guns N' Roses box set. Unbelievable collection from it.
Yes, indeed, Judd. That is an incredible box set.
You're lucky that stayed in North Carolina.
I love My Appetite for Destruction album. It's amazing. I love that
you
album.
should see the box set.
Adam, have you listened to the version of that on Qobuz?
What's that? There's a couple different versions on it on Qobuz. Yeah, they have like a few different ones.
Yeah, I think there's one at 192. It's insane.
It's amazing. I mean, so that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Like you can A/B that on your system. Like you can just switch inputs and listen to the Qobuz stream, listen to the vinyl, and go back and forth, and it's a whole lot of fun. But that is got to be one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best rock albums like ever. That is an amazing 100%. Album. So good.
One of the best records is this one right here.
You mean this one right here?
You mean that one there?
So a quick story about that record at our 40th anniversary party that we had at our Montgomeryville showroom. The end of the night kind of got to the point where all the clients had taken off. There were a few people left. We were standing around talking to Bob, having fun. Mm-hmm. There was a copy of London Calling sitting at that party, that very copy. And Brian and I went and sat in the 2-channel room and listened to, I think just the first record. But
we got through the first half before people came in and said, can you stop? It's time to go.
Yeah, that was me, by the way, because I had set up everything before the show and helped out with that, and we started cleaning up after the show. So it was time to go. No offense, guys, it was time to go. Hello.
None taken.
No, I got it. No, all good. Yeah, I remember that. You guys were definitely enjoying yourself back there on our signature setup back there. So it was who's this? Led Zeppelin Mothership box set. Fabulous, great production and packaging. Yeah, I have a couple Led Zeppelin albums. I didn't get the whole box set. of them yet, but I certainly love my Led Zeppelin. I go and I see it's a tribute band called Get the Lead Out. I see them every year. I'm really hoping that they come around again this year because, you know, that's all up in the air with where we're at. But I love me some Led Zeppelin. Absolutely. Let's see. So, oh, and look, that's my mom. Sorry, I had to throw it up there. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Adam's mom.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody's saying hi to Adam's mom. So, but Brian, what else? You were showing us some crazy stuff before we started. What else? You had, what, 12 copies of one record? You had...
like this is all the same 10-inch record.
Yeah.
But they're all different colors.
Because you had to have that.
So there's the red one.
Uh-huh.
My favorite one of that one is, hold on, wait for it. They called it the Fruity Pebble Clear.
Okay.
So it's a rainbow speckled splatter vinyl. So all the same songs, just probably that many releases of it.
Yeah. You know, now do they sound different? Does the blue phase first sounder than the red phase and then the speckled phase? And they all sound different, right?
The yellow one is kind of a sour sound.
Well, apparently it's supposed to show you this. I mean, she just...
it's
her horse. Too. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. What was didn't you have like a thing of Fruity Pebbles or something?
No,
there you go.
This is the cereal box set from Less Than Jake. They put this out on their 10th anniversary as a band. They got it printed as a box of cereal. It has the first 4 releases that they ever put out on vinyl. They even did a nutrition facts on it, with such facts as number of cups of coffee drank, 18,678.
Okay.
Bands used 2.
Okay.
Records released, over 130 different releases before this one came out.
That doesn't look wide enough to have a record in it, though.
Right.
It's got 7 inches in it.
Oh.
So
I was gonna say.
Got it.
Their first releases were 45s, as most people say, and it also has a limited edition T-shirt that has never been worn.
Wow, that can also serve as a good record cleaner in a pinch.
Yeah. And conversely, they also had another one, which was just a pie tin.
That's cool. I love it.
You're just blowing my mind, Brian.
And
Unbelievable.
the pie tin, it's just records.
I love it.
Love it. Love it. So as you can see, you can get pretty crazy with a vinyl collection. So my God. So apparently we are going to be launching a vinyl appreciation campaign next month. And we would want to know what people would like us to talk about. What are you looking for? Questions, how-tos. We're going to do this whole vinyl thing all next month. So email us. I'll get you the number up here and stuff like that, and the phone number here. Call in, email us, let us know what you maybe would like us to talk about in terms of vinyl appreciation, so we can make sure that we talk about and discuss those topics for you. But this has definitely been a fun happy hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us, Brian, Noah, and Ken. Certainly, we miss you. I hope to see everybody soon.
Miss you,
Noah and Brian, I'll probably see you tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's always that. But everybody, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. This has been a wonderful hi-fi happy hour with us. So thank you for taking the time. This is Adam with Worldwide Stereo, reminding you guys to listen to music every day. So long.
Bye.